Okay, so are you ready to dive into the world of bioengineering? Because we've got some really fascinating sources from RoleCatcher to help us explore this field. It seems like you're interested in learning more, so let's get right to it.
Absolutely. There's so much to uncover about bioengineering, and it's definitely a hot topic right now.
It really is. And one of the things that struck me while going through RoleCatcher's career guide is just how broad bioengineering really is. I mean, it's not just about like genetic modification, which is what most people think about first,
Mhm.
right? But they're talking about using bioengineering for things like cleaning up oil spills, which I learned is called bioremediation.
Yeah, bioremediation is a great example, and it really highlights why bioengineering is having such a moment. It's all about using these incredible biological processes to address some of the world's biggest challenges, like we're talking sustainable agriculture, personalized medicine. We're not just talking about the future, we're talking about shaping the future.
Yes, exactly, shaping the future. And speaking of shaping the future, the career guide talks about how bioengineers can specialize in so many different areas. It's pretty amazing.
It
You could
is.
work on something like bioprinting organs for transplantation, or like how about engineering new biomaterials that can actually repair damaged tissues?
It's mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
And that level of specialization is really, really key in such a competitive field. Like it lets you zero in on what you're truly passionate about and become a total pro in that specific niche. I mean, think about it. You could be just a bioengineer, or you could be the expert in, say, genetic engineering for disease prevention.
That's such a good point. It's not just about being a bioengineer. It's about, like you said, being the bioengineer in your specific area. Okay, so let's say someone listening is like, I'm in, I want to dive into this world. What skills are we talking about here?
Right.
Because the career guide breaks it down into hard skills and soft skills, and I think that's super
Right.
interesting. So on the hard skills side, we've got like the obvious ones. Engineering principles, biology, maybe even knowing how to code. But then there are soft skills, which I think are equally important. Things like critical thinking, communication, and problem solving. You've got to be both a scientific mind and a team player, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
And I know I can't stress enough how crucial adaptability and this commitment to continuous learning are in this field. Bioengineering, it's not for someone who wants things to stay the same. It's constantly changing with new technologies popping up all the time. So you have to be comfortable with always learning and growing your knowledge.
It's definitely not a stagnant field, that's for sure. And the career guide doesn't sugarcoat it either. Like becoming a bioengineer, it takes some serious dedication and hard work.
Yeah.
It's not an easy path, but it seems like the payoff, the potential rewards are huge.
They can be massive. The guide even highlights how positive the job outlook is for this field. And it makes sense the demand for bioengineers is only going to keep increasing as we face more and more complex challenges in healthcare, agriculture, and environmental sustainability. So yeah, it's a career path with a ton of potential.
Yeah.
But of course, landing that dream job is a pretty big step.
And that's where these AI-powered tools from RoleCatcher can really come in handy. Like, I was checking out the interview section, and it's pretty cool. They have
Yeah.
this huge database of potential interview questions, and get this, they even have AI feedback to help you practice your answers.
Wow.
It's like having your own personal interview coach right on your phone.
That's really useful, especially in a field like bioengineering where it's so competitive.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Specialization is key.
Right.
And the interview, that's where you really get a chance to show off that specialized knowledge, that passion to potential employers.
It's where you prove why you're the perfect person for that specific role, right? And speaking of showcasing your best self, the job section, they're really big on tailoring your CV and cover letter for each job you apply for.
Which makes a huge difference. Even with, all the AI and automated resume screening these days,
Hmm.
a really well-written cover letter, it's like your chance to make a human connection.
Mhm.
Let your passion shine through.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
bioengineering? What specific problems are you driven to solve?
Hmm.
Those are the questions that'll help you stand out from everyone else.
And RoleCatcher has some pretty cool tools to help you do that too. Like they have this AI-powered CV analysis thing. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah.
It basically tells you how well your CV lines up with the specific job description, and then it gives you suggestions for how to improve it, like having someone look over your shoulder, but it's AI.
Exactly. It's like using technology to, boost your application, not to replace putting in the effort yourself.
Right.
It can help you pick out those keywords, highlight the important stuff from your experience, and just overall make your application way more competitive.
So we've covered a lot, how huge this field is, the importance of finding your niche, how competitive it can be. But I think the takeaway for me is that even though it's challenging, bioengineering is a field where you can truly make a real impact. Would you say that's accurate?
100%.
So how are bioengineers actually tackling those big challenges we were talking about earlier? Like, what's that actually look like in practice?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think it gets to the heart of why bioengineering is so exciting right now. Like, we're on the verge of some incredible breakthroughs, and bioengineers are leading the way.
It's pretty
Take
amazing.
healthcare, for example.
Yeah.
You have bioengineers developing completely new gene therapies that could potentially cure diseases that, until now, we thought were incurable.
That's incredible. And with all that potential, it makes you think about the ethical considerations too, right? Especially when we're talking about things like genetic engineering, it seems like there's a lot to navigate there. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. And, it's not just limited to healthcare. Look at agriculture.
Hmm.
You've got bioengineers working on developing drought-resistant crops to help with food security, especially with climate change and everything.
Right, yeah.
And in environmental science, they're engineering bacteria that can, like, break down plastic waste and clean up pollution. These are just a few examples. There's just so much happening.
It's amazing to see how much of an impact bioengineering is having on solving these real world problems. So for someone listening who's feeling super inspired right now, what would you say? What does the path forward look like?
Well, the stuff you shared, especially those RoleCatcher guides, they lay out the practical steps really well. The education part, what skills you need, how to actually find a job in this field. But I think beyond those practical things, it really comes down to figuring out what truly excites you within bioengineering, because it's such a huge field.
Right.
What problems are you really passionate about solving? Like, what kind of legacy are you hoping to leave?
It's like we were saying before, it's about finding that intersection of what you're good at, what you love, and what the world actually needs.
Right, exactly. And that's what makes it so rewarding. You're not just building a career, you're potentially making a real difference.
Absolutely. It's been amazing talking about all of this with you. Bioengineering is clearly a field with so much potential, from changing the face of medicine to making sure we have a sustainable future.
It really is. And if there's one thing I hope listeners take away from this, it's that the future of bioengineering is, well, it's waiting to be written,
Hmm.
and they could be the ones to write it.
I love that. That's a great note to end on. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.